He's in the middle of telling Dr. Fenn about a dream when he stops himself. Actually, he says, there's something else. She waits. The memory is completely intact, he says. All of it. I can describe his kitchen right now if you ask me to, the position of things, the lights at a particular time of day, the smell of it. He pauses. Every detail, exactly as it was. Yes, Dr. Fenn says. The memory is yours, completely, permanently. What has been removed is the pathway between the memory and the feeling that it used to carry, she pauses. The room is perfectly intact. The door to it has been closed. Isaac looks at her. Is that a loss, he says? She considers the question with the seriousness it deserves. It's a change, she says. Whether it is a loss depends on what you believe the feeling was for. He looks at her steadily. And what do you believe it was for? The first time he's asked her something so directly, she holds it. He watches her hold it. He has learned over the weeks to read the texture of her silences, the ones that are professional, considered, the pause before a calibrated answer. This is not that. This silence has a different quality. Something moving through it that she is deciding in real time whether or not to let through. She makes her decision. I believe, she says, that it was causing you considerable difficulty. Yes, he says, it was. He walks home, and the question she didn't quite answer walks beside him. Whether it is a loss depends on what you believe the feeling was for. He can't locate the bottom of it. He thinks, I remember loving him. I cannot remember what the loving felt like from the inside. Something interrupts his thought and causes him to stop walking. Not a memory, not a trauma, more like a small disturbance, a change in air pressure, brief, sourceless. He stands very still until it passes. Sometime before the letter, a couple of weeks into the relationship, when the world had not yet sent its verdict, there was a Saturday in October, when neither of them had anywhere to be. This was rarer than it should have been, not because they were busy exactly, but because the architecture of their life together required, always, a consciousness of context. Even in the apartment, there was the practiced awareness. The curtains, the phone face down, the habit of lowered voices that was not quite lowered voices but something subtler. A modulation that had become so natural, Isaac no longer felt it as a constraint. But that Saturday, it had rained since before dawn, and the rain made the apartment feel sealed against the world, its borders secure in a way they rarely were. Ethan made coffee and brought it back to bed. The curtains were still drawn. Through them the rain light came in thin and grey, the kind that softened the edges of things rather than illuminating them. Enough to see by, not enough to feel like morning had properly arrived. They lay in it and drank the coffee, and the city outside was muffled and very far away. They talked for a long time about nothing important. A conversation that moved the way conversations move when there was no destination, finding its own direction, turning back, going elsewhere. Ethan's voice in the morning had a different register from his evening voice. Lower, slower, the social calibration not yet applied. Isaac had come to understand that this was the most private version of him, the morning voice, and he hoarded it quietly. At some point the coffee was finished and the talking dissolved into the kind of silence that is not the absence of talking, but its completion. The silence that a conversation earns when it has said everything it needed to say and is now simply resting. Ethan turned toward him. What Isaac would remember later was not the specifics, or not only the specifics, which were present and exact and belonged entirely to the two of them, but the quality of the attention. The way Ethan looked at him in the rainlight, those eyes without any of the social calibration, no management in them, nothing held back. The height of him in the small room, the particular sureness of his hands, the way they moved as though they already knew where they were going. Isaac thought, I want to memorize this. Not the room, him. The exact way he looks right now, in this light, without anyone watching. I want to be able to find this again in the dark. He stopped thinking. What replaced it was simpler and older than thought. The specific warmth of another person, known and present, asking nothing of him except that he stay. Afterwards, they sat together at the edge of the bed, and the rain was still there. I'm going to tell you something, Ethan said, to the ceiling. And you don't have to say anything back, Isaac waited. I think this is the least afraid I've been, Ethan said, in a long time since... He stopped, reconsidered. Possibly ever with another person. Isaac looked at the ceiling. Me too, he said. Months later, after the letter had arrived and been read and folded and sat with, a second envelope came. No reference code this time. Just his name, typed, and a return address he recognised as District 4 Wellness Services. Inside a booklet, 40 pages, spiral bound. The cover, a photograph of two people walking in a park, smiling. The particular brightness of stock photography. Across the top in a clean lettering, your wellness journey, understanding your options. It had a newly printed smell. Fresh, clean. The pages slightly stiff at the spine. The kind of smell that belonged to a university prospectus or a new lease on a flat. The smell of something presenting itself as a beginning. He set it on the kitchen table and looked at it for a moment, then he opened it. The island section was brief, 3 pages. Resettlement is administered through the National Wellness Authority. Individuals are relocated to a designated residential community where they may live in accordance with their biological profile. A postal address decommissioned. A sentence about ongoing support services. Nothing about communication, nothing about return. The treatment section was longer, 7 pages. It described the process in 3 stages: assessment, preparation, consolidation. It described the neurological mechanism in terms he could partially follow. Something about attentional pathways, emotional weighting, the selective diminishment of specific associative networks. It said, patients retain full cognitive function, personality and memory. Social and professional reintegration is typically achieved within 8 to 12 weeks. He read those 7 pages 4 times. He had not told Ethan the booklet had arrived.